They taught you World War I started because of this. An assassination. Archduke Franz Ferdinand shot in Sarajevo on June 28, 1914. A Serbian nationalist. A spark that ignited the powder keg of Europe. 20 million dead. Empires destroyed. The modern Middle East created. All because of one bullet. That's the story. But what if the real cause wasn't a bullet, but a railway track? This is the story they don't teach. Because it reveals too much. Ask yourself a simple question. Why did Britain, an island nation that had spent centuries avoiding European entanglements, suddenly decide to fight a continental war? Britain was the most powerful empire on Earth. It controlled 25% of the world's land, 25% of the world's population, the world's oceans through Royal Navy supremacy, and global trade routes, especially to India. For over a century, British policy was splendid isolation. Let the Europeans fight each other, Britain stays out. So why in 1914 did Britain abandon that policy? Why risk everything to fight Germany? The official answer is to defend Belgian neutrality and honor treaty obligations. Real question. Would Britain sacrifice 1 million soldiers for Belgium? Or was there something else Britain was defending? Something that threatened the entire foundation of British power. 1899. The German Empire announces the most ambitious infrastructure project in human history. The Berlin-Baghdad Railway. A direct land route from the heart of Europe to the Middle East. Starting in Berlin, Germany, running through Austria-Hungary, the Balkans, the Ottoman Empire, Mesopotamia, ending in Baghdad, and eventually the Persian Gulf. Total distance, over 1,600 miles. For Germany, this was economic genius. Bypass the British-controlled Suez Canal. Direct access to Middle Eastern oil. A trade route to India and Asia without needing a navy. Economic dominance through the fastest route from Europe to the East. Germany had a problem. They were a land power in a world where sea power ruled. The railway was the solution. One train line. And it would break Britain's stranglehold on global trade. For Britain, this wasn't just a railway. It was an existential threat. To understand why this train terrified Britain, you need to understand how Britain ruled the world. Britain's power rested on one thing. Control of the seas. Gibraltar controlled Mediterranean access. The Suez Canal, British-owned since 1875, controlled the route to India and Asia. The Cape of Good Hope was the alternative route around Africa. Singapore controlled Southeast Asian trade. The Royal Navy enforced British dominance everywhere. If you wanted to trade between Europe and Asia, you had two options. Sail through the Suez Canal, British-controlled, British fees, British inspection. Or sail around Africa, months longer, British naval patrols. Either way, Britain controlled the flow, collected the fees, and could blockade enemies at will. Britain didn't just tax global trade. Britain controlled it. And the most important trade route of all was the route to India. India was the richest colony in history. Losing access to India meant losing the empire. Every route to India went through British-controlled waters. Until the railway. The Berlin-Baghdad Railway changed the entire equation. Old reality by sea. Berlin to Baghdad meant sailing through British-controlled waters. Distance, over 6,000 miles. Time, weeks. British control, total. New reality by railway. Berlin to Baghdad by train, no British involvement. Distance, 1,600 miles direct. Time, days. British control, 0. For the first time in a century, a major European power could access the East without British permission. German goods, German merchants, German influence flowing directly into the Middle East and beyond, untouchable by the Royal Navy. And it got worse for Britain. The world was transitioning from coal to oil. Whoever controlled Middle Eastern oil would control the 20th century. Britain knew this. In 1911, Winston Churchill began converting the entire Royal Navy from coal to oil. Britain needed Middle Eastern oil. But the railway would give Germany direct access to those same oil fields. By land. Untouchable by the Royal Navy. The train wasn't just an economic threat. It was a strategic death sentence for British power. The railway route passed through Mosul in northern Iraq with massive oil reserves. Baghdad in central Iraq, a strategic hub. Basra in southern Iraq with oil fields and Persian Gulf access. The Persian Gulf coast as the terminal point with direct shipping. Britain loses monopoly on European access to the East, control over oil supply to rival powers, strategic choke point advantage. Naval supremacy becomes partially irrelevant. This wasn't just about money. This was about the foundation of British global dominance. Britain faced a choice. Accept the railway, lose strategic advantage, watch Germany rise economically, risk losing the empire. Or stop the railway by any means necessary. Britain chose to stop it. But there was a problem. Germany was too strong to attack alone. Britain needed allies. The irony. Britain's traditional rivals were France and Russia. France had been Britain's enemy for centuries. The Napoleonic Wars. Russia was Britain's rival in the Great Game for Central Asian dominance. The Crimean War. But the railway threat was so severe that Britain did the unthinkable. 1904, Entente Cordiale, Britain plus France alliance. 1907, Anglo-Russian Entente, Britain plus Russia alliance. Result, the Triple Entente. Britain, France, and Russia aligned against Germany. Germany was now encircled. Surrounded by enemies on all sides. All because of a railway. And the railway kept being built. June 28, 1914. Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated in Sarajevo. The history books tell you this started World War I. But let's be honest. Europe was already primed for war. Germany and Britain had been in a naval arms race for over a decade. The Triple Entente had encircled Germany since 1907. War plans were already written. Everybody was just waiting for a trigger. Sarajevo wasn't the cause. It was the excuse. The real causes were structural. The railway threat, Germany bypassing British sea power. Oil competition, race to control Middle Eastern oil. Naval rivalry, Germany challenging British naval supremacy. Imperial competition, scramble for colonies and resources. Encirclement, Germany's strategic isolation. The assassination was the spark. But the powder keg was the railway and everything it represented. When war broke out in August 1914, Britain had a decision to make. The official reason Britain entered the war was to defend Belgian neutrality. Germany violated Belgian borders. But ask yourself, would Britain sacrifice 1 million soldiers and the lives of a generation for Belgium? Or was Belgium the acceptable public reason for a war Britain already wanted to fight? Britain's real war aims were destroy Germany as a rival, eliminate the railway threat, maintain naval supremacy, prevent German naval challenge, control Middle Eastern oil, secure the oil fields for Britain, preserve the route to India, keep the empire intact. Belgian neutrality was the excuse. The railway was the reason. When we think of World War I, we think of the Western Front. Trenches. France. The Somme. But there was another front. The Middle Eastern Front. 1914 to 1918, Britain invades the Ottoman Empire. Egypt, already British-controlled. Palestine, invasion begins 1917. Mesopotamia, invasion begins 1914. Arabia, supporting Arab revolt. Notice something. Every major British campaign in the Middle East followed the exact route of the railway. Britain wasn't just fighting Germany in Europe. Britain was seizing control of the railway corridor in the Middle East. Basra captured 1914, southern terminus, oil fields. Baghdad captured 1917, strategic center. Mosul captured 1918, northern oil fields. Palestine captured 1917 to 1918, railway corridor control. By the end of the war, Britain controlled the entire railway route. The railway would never be completed. Not as Germany intended. November 1918. Germany surrenders. The Ottoman Empire collapses. And almost immediately, Britain and France begin carving up the Middle East. The Sykes-Picot Agreement, secret during the war, agreed in 1916. British zone, Mesopotamia, modern Iraq, oil fields, railway route. Palestine, railway corridor to Mediterranean. Kuwait, Persian Gulf access. Jordan, strategic buffer. French zone, Syria, railway corridor through Ottoman lands. Lebanon, Mediterranean coast. Notice the pattern. Every inch of the Berlin-Baghdad railway route is now controlled by Britain or France. Germany is completely excluded. 1920, Treaty of Sèvres. The Ottoman Empire is officially dismantled. Britain and France create Iraq, British mandate, built around the railway route plus oil. Syria, French mandate, northern railway corridor. Lebanon, French mandate, Mediterranean access. Palestine, British mandate, railway corridor. Jordan, British mandate, strategic buffer. These borders were drawn with one goal: control the railway corridor and the oil beneath it. These are the borders that still exist today. And they are still causing wars. Britain won World War I. What Britain gained? Iraq, control of Mesopotamian oil fields. Palestine, control of railway corridor to Mediterranean. Jordan, strategic buffer zone. Kuwait, Persian Gulf access secured. Suez Canal remained British-controlled. Oil concessions, British companies gained exclusive rights to Middle Eastern oil. 1909, Anglo-Persian Oil Company founded, later became BP. 1914, British government buys controlling stake. 1918 to 1920, British oil companies secure rights to Iraqi oil fields. The railway was stopped. German access to Middle Eastern oil was blocked. British control over global trade was preserved. And the empire survived for a few more decades. But at what cost? British casualties in World War I. Nearly 900,000 dead. 2 million wounded. Total, nearly 3 million British casualties. An entire generation destroyed. British national debt. 1914, £650 million. 1918, £7.4 billion. Increase, over 1,000%. Britain emerged from World War I financially dependent on the United States. The empire never recovered economically. By 1945, after another world war, the empire was finished. Within 30 years of winning World War I, the British Empire was gone. Britain destroyed Germany, stopped the railway, secured the oil, and in doing so, destroyed itself. The railway was never completed. Sections of it still exist. Rusting. Abandoned. Old railway bridges, tunnels, incomplete tracks across Turkey, Syria, Iraq. But its ghost haunts the region. The borders created to control the railway corridor. They are the same borders causing wars today. Iraq War, Syrian Civil War, Kurdish conflicts. The fight for oil that began with the railway. Still happening. Iraq War, 2003. And the dream of connecting Europe to Asia by land. China is building it now. The Belt and Road Initiative. History doesn't repeat. But it rhymes. They taught you World War I was about assassination, alliances, militarism, nationalism, imperialism. And all of those things were true. But they were symptoms, not causes. The root cause was simpler. Britain's global dominance depended on controlling the seas. Germany built a railway that would bypass British sea power. Britain went to war to stop it. 20 million people died. 4 empires collapsed. The modern Middle East was created and has been at war ever since. All because of a train. This is what geopolitics actually looks like. Not ideology. Not honor. Not defending the innocent. Control. Resources. Trade routes. And whoever controls the infrastructure controls the future. The Berlin-Baghdad Railway teaches us 3 things. Lesson 1: Infrastructure is power. Railways, canals, pipelines, shipping lanes. Whoever controls these controls trade. And trade is power. This is still true today. Lesson 2: Dominant powers will do anything to stay dominant. Britain had 2 choices. Accept German economic rise peacefully, or go to war to stop it. Britain chose war. 20 million dead to preserve British dominance. And the current global superpower faces the same. Lesson 3: The victors write the history. You were taught World War I was fought for freedom, democracy, Belgian neutrality, stopping German aggression. The real reasons were oil control, trade route dominance, imperial competition, strategic infrastructure. History is written by the winners. And the winners rarely tell you they fought for oil and railways. They tell you they fought for. Today, China is building railways across Asia. Belt and Road Initiative. Pipelines connect Russia to Europe. Nord Stream. The Arctic is opening new shipping routes. Climate change opening new trade routes, new competitions. And the same powers that destroyed the world once before are responding the same way. Military build-ups. Alliance formations. Encirclement strategies. Echoes of 1914. Will history repeat? Or will we learn the lesson? In 1914, the world went to war to stop a train. 20 million died. The train never ran. But the world never recovered. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it.